Hey everybody, it's Jen, and if you're here, I love you. If you are not here, I still love you, but I wish you were here. Today we're going to talk about mental illness, and I know that this can kind of be a big thing for a lot of people. There's a lot of stigma surrounding it, even still, even in 2024, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but I feel like it's important and it needs to be talked about. And so people know that they're not alone and that there are other people out there that are the same as them or maybe feeling some of the same things they are. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Excuse me. So, the first thing I want to say is, have any of you guys ever felt any of these things? Personally, I feel these things almost every day. I would like to just tell a little bit about my story to begin with, and then we'll get into the facts. I was diagnosed with depression, some sort of depression, in 2007. That was the first time I was completely diagnosed. I'm sorry, I can't talk today. When I had my oldest son, I had postpartum depression really bad. And then after that, it just kind of spiraled. And just, from then on, I was officially diagnosed. I probably was always depressed. You're pretty much born with these things, but I never really went to any kind of therapist or doctor and was told this. So in 2007, almost 17 years ago, that's when I was diagnosed in June, of course. Since then, it's been upgraded to major depressive disorder, and I also have generalized anxiety disorder. I struggle on a day-to-day basis with feeling the things that you just saw. Worthless, everything is stupid, nothing matters, my life is not worth anything, those sort of things. And I deal with a lot of stuff because of that. I have a hard time believing that I'm not alone. And even though rationally I do know that there are a lot of other people who deal with the same situations that I do, it's hard because in your head you feel one thing and something else entirely is what's going on outside. So you're in a battle with your own brain, basically. I do take medication. I've been in therapy. I prefer one-on-one therapy, and we'll talk about treatment later. But there are a bunch of different options that you can have, and so that's me, basically in a nutshell. However, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of mental illness in this video. So, without further ado, let me refer to my notes. So, according to Mental Health America, in 2022, 19.86% of adults were experiencing a mental illness, which is the equivalent of almost 50 million people. And 4.91% were experiencing a severe mental illness. There's a little bit of a difference there, and I hope everybody can distinguish that as I talk about it. So, what is a severe mental illness? There's mental illness, which is, they call it general mental illness, and then there's severe mental illness. So severe mental illness is something that really impacts your life. Like, you can't function, without being medicated or treatment options or anything like that. There are certain disorders that qualify as severe mental illness. And according to the National Library of Medicine, the severe mental illness commonly refers to a diagnosis of psychotic disorders, which would be like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, either one or two, and either major depression with psychotic symptoms, or you can have depression that's just treatment resistant. So even though you're taking medication, going to therapy, it doesn't work. You're still depressed. Also included in the severe mental illness category, there are anxiety disorders, such as generalized anxiety disorder. Like I have, there are also many others. Eating disorders are a severe mental illness. Anorexia, bulimia, all of those things. Body dysmorphia, I believe, is in that category as well. And also personality disorders. There's narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. There's so many. And I feel like it's still not widely understood. And a lot of these disorders can share symptoms, and so it makes it really hard to diagnose. On a personal note, I am an Army veteran. I did 6 years from 2004 to 2010, and this next statistic has to do with veterans and mental illness because it's a big problem. And so from studies from the VA, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, they're up to 28% of veterans experience symptoms that lead to a diagnosis. That's a big number. 28% of veterans. And I'm not saying that, I don't want to concentrate on veterans. That's not the point of this video. But, excuse me. But I feel like there's a correlation between being in the military and having a mental health issue. And there have actually been studies done on that. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but, there are a lot of veterans who deal with this, whether it's PTSD from being deployed or just being depressed like me, any kind of a mental health disorder, it can affect anyone, really. So veterans are just a big part of that, and I wanted to touch on that really quick. So now we're going to get into a topic that is adjacent to mental illness, but I just want to clarify that it could be possibly a trigger warning for some people, and I don't want to cause any issues. I don't want to make anybody feel bad or anything like that, but I feel like it's important to talk about it, and that's suicide. Not everyone with a mental illness commits suicide, but a large number do. So in 2021, 48,183 people died as a result of suicide. And that's from the CDC, which was last reviewed in 2023. That's horrible. I mean, when you think about the first statistic that I told you, whereas equates to 50 million Americans having mental illness, and then 48,000 are the ones that die as a result of suicide. I mean, you can tell that not everybody commits suicide that has a mental illness. However, no one should ever feel like suicide is the only way that they're going to get help. And I want to make that very clear. If you feel like suicide is your only option, then I strongly advise you to talk to someone, tell someone how you're feeling, and let them help. Because the world needs you. It doesn't matter if you feel like you're nothing, or, you could be the most popular person on the planet. It doesn't matter. The world needs you. So do not commit suicide. Please. You have to stay alive for people who love you and for people who care about you. No one should ever feel like that's their only option. So now also, this is kind of more statistics on how many people who have committed suicide had mental illness. So 46% of people who die by suicide had a diagnosed mental health condition. And 90% may have experienced symptoms of a mental health illness, according to family, friends, and medical professionals. And that was from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which was last updated in April of 2023. So you can see the correlation between those who have mental illness. They're more likely to be the ones who commit suicide. And just a personal story real quick. When I was in the Army, there was a enlisted first sergeant. He wasn't my particular first sergeant, but I knew him really well. He ended up committing suicide, and it came out of nowhere. No one knew. No one even knew he was suffering from any kind of mental illness. And it was super sad. After the fact, people, realized obviously that he was exhibiting signs of mental illness, and realized that, maybe somebody should have reached out to him, or, but it's one of those shoulda, coulda, woulda things. You can't look at it like that. You have to just kind of, pick up the pieces and move on. And unfortunately, if you live in the past, that just makes things worse. So it was a horrible, horrible experience to go through. I hope none of you ever go through that. And so yeah, it's not a great, it's not a great thing for anyone to have to go through or deal with or anything. Suicide is horrible. It's basically like a global epidemic. And I know my video has mostly concentrated on America, which is where I'm at. However, it happens everywhere. So, just reach out to somebody. If you need help, just reach out to somebody. And, I hope, just let me know in the comments if you've ever felt this way or anything like that. And I'm not trying to, make you talk about stuff you don't want to talk about or anything like that. However, I think it's important for everyone to know they're not alone. And that's the biggest thing that I deal with, is that I always feel like I'm alone in this, and I'm not. So I want everyone else to know that they're not as well. So now I would like to talk about some treatment options for different mental illnesses. So of course you have medications, antidepressants, antipsychotics, anti-anxiety meds. There's a bajillion of them. And one thing I do want to touch on with medications is, if you're diagnosed with a mental health condition, it can take a while for your doctor to get your medications correct. Personally, I've been on 6 or 7 different antidepressants before I found one that actually did help. Or it would wear off, and that happens sometimes. I would take it for so long, and then it would wear off and stop working, and I would be right back where I started. Also, when you're talking to your doctors, just make sure that, like all the side effects, because there are some side effects for certain medications that can be even more debilitating than the mental health condition itself. So just keep that in mind. But medications do help, and I recommend that you talk to your doctor about them if this is an issue for you. And try to get on something, because, I'm on one, and I will be for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that. I know a lot of people don't like to take medications, and there are other treatment options, which we're going to get into right now. So the next one would be like psychotherapy. There are a bajillion different kinds of therapy that you can use, but basically the point of it is you're talking to someone about how you feel. And for me personally, talking to someone about my feelings and, letting them know that this is what I'm feeling today, this is how bad it was, such and such, it actually helps more than you would think. People want to be heard. You know, people just want to know that someone is listening to them and someone gives a shit, and I just think that therapy is important in that respect. You can, have a one-on-one therapy session. I mean, we all see on TV where somebody goes to a psychotherapist's office and they're laying on their couch and talking about their feelings. It's not exactly like that in real life, but or there's also group therapy. And that's kind of fun too, just because, you'll see that there are other people who feel the same as you. So that's important, and that's one of the really good options for treatment as well. There are such things as called brain stimulant treatments, and I'm assuming that this is something to do with like electroshock therapy, which I believe would be more of like a last resort, or more that they like used way back in the day, like lobotomies and crap like that. I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. I feel like maybe it does work, but I particularly don't want to lose any of my memories or functions or anything like that. So I don't want anybody messing around with my brain and delivering electric shocks. So take that one with a grain of salt. If it, helps and you want to do it, then talk to your doctor about that. And then there's also hospital and residential treatment. The difference being, in a hospital, you're literally on a mental health floor of a hospital, and you go to therapy and you do groups, that sort of thing. Talk to a psychiatrist one-on-one, but you're literally in a hospital. I've been hospitalized before, in 2014, for my depression. And while it sucked at the time, I'm not going to lie, I did not want to be there. Looking back on it almost 10 years later, I can honestly say that I needed it, It was an experience that I hope I never have to go through again. But at that time in my life when everything, and I'm not going to get into everything that was going on, but at that time in my life when stuff was not right and I needed help, going to the hospital probably saved my life. So, and I know I'm being really candid here. I've had a lot of time to think about these things and whatnot. So I understand that if, you may not necessarily be able to talk about it like I'm talking about it. But trust me, I've had plenty of time in the past where all I did was cry. So I'm just trying to, be as factual and as matter of fact about it as I can, because I think that's important. But yeah, so the hospital basically saved my life. Residential treatment, on the other hand, it's basically the same thing. However, you're literally in like a apartment building or whatever you want to call it, with other individuals that are going through the same thing or some sort of mental illness, and they have counselors on staff and those sorts of things. So those are two other options where you're literally not in your own house. You literally live somewhere else. The last one I want to touch on is something that's not specific to mental illness. However, it does occur with mental illness quite often. And that's getting treatment for substance abuse or substance use. And, that can be drugs, alcohol, whatever. By the way, all of these treatment options I got from the Mayo Clinic website, which was updated in 2024. So substance use kind of goes hand in hand with mental illness. Either it can cause your mental illness or you're self-medicating. So that's when you become addicted to something and you misuse it and that sort of thing. Because a lot of people don't realize what kind of mental illness they have, or if they even have one, and they're just trying to basically numb the pain or make themselves feel better in whatever way. So, more than 1 in 4 adults who have a serious mental illness also have a substance abuse problem or substance use problem. And that's from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration in 2023, and that's also called SAMHSA. I know a lot of people who deal with substance abuse or substance use, and also have depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, they kind of just go hand in hand. And I'm not saying that everyone fits into the category of having both. I, for one, have never had a drug or alcohol problem. That I find other ways to, quote unquote, self-medicate. However, it's a big problem. And getting help for your substance use issues is one of the ways to also help your mental health. And I feel like if you have both, getting help for your substance use issue first would be the best thing to do, because there are so many other issues caused by that you want to get that taken care of first. And then you can deal with the mental health issue. And it may not be as bad, or it may go away, because like I said, sometimes substance use can cause a mental illness. So what's the point of this video? The point of this video is to educate and to let everyone out there know that they're not alone. And also just to let everyone know that they need to talk to someone. If you're feeling bad about yourself, if you're feeling like life doesn't matter, if you cry all the time, if you can't get out of bed, if you never take a shower, you can't take care of yourself in any way, there is something wrong. And please, I'm begging everyone to reach out to someone, a friend, a family member, a clergyman, teacher, anyone, and just talk to them. Please. The suicide rate is way too high, and I can't stand seeing it keep rising as the years go by. So please just do what you need to do to get help. And always remember that you're not alone, and that you are enough. It doesn't matter who you are, you're enough, and the world needs you. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, or at least got some information from it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and all that jazz. My name is Jen, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks. Bye.